The Watchers in the Dark. Commander Thys stretched his elongated limbs as he studied the tactical display aboard the dreadnought Sovereign's Will. 8 massive warships hung in the darkness at the edge of the Sol system, their hulls bristling with weapons that had reduced entire civilizations to cosmic dust. The blue-green world ahead looked so peaceful, so unsuspecting. No orbital defense platforms, no interceptor fleets rushing to meet them, no desperate transmissions begging for mercy. Just silence. Primitive beyond measure, muttered Sub-Commander Vrex, his scaled hands dancing across the sensor controls. Their most advanced satellites are barely functional. Chemical rockets, Commander. They're still using chemical rockets. Thys nodded, though something nagged at him. In 40 standard years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. The hegemony's intelligence networks were vast, spanning 3 galaxy arms. They knew which species would fight, which would flee, and which would surrender immediately upon witnessing superior firepower. Earth's inhabitants, humans, they called themselves, should have been frantically broadcasting surrender terms by now. Instead, they were broadcasting entertainment signals. Music, moving pictures, something called reality television, that made absolutely no sense to any hegemony analyst. "Sir," Navigator Zilt spoke up from her station, her young voice uncertain. "Long-range sensors are detecting some unusual readings near the asteroid belt." "Define unusual," Thys commanded. "Microgravitational anomalies. Very faint, but they appear to be moving in formation." Vrex's crest flattened against his skull, a sign of irritation. "Space debris. These primitives have cluttered their system with junk, typical of low-tier civilizations." But Thys felt that familiar tingle along his nerve clusters. In 4 decades of military service, he had learned the difference between debris and design. Maintain position. Begin standard scanning protocols, but keep weapons charged. That's when the small craft appeared. It materialized from what seemed like empty space, roughly 3 kilometers off their starboard bow. The vessel was impossibly small compared to hegemony warships, no larger than a courier shuttle. Its hull was matte black, absorbing sensor waves rather than reflecting them. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, and a simple emblem near the nose showed a stylized representation of the blue world below. "Where did that come from?" Thys demanded. Zilt's claws clicked frantically across her controls. "Unknown, sir. It wasn't there 30 seconds ago. Our sensors show no drive signatures, no energy emissions until it appeared." The small craft began broadcasting on standard galactic frequencies. The message came through in perfect hegemony standard, spoken with a calm female voice that somehow made Thys's scales itch with unease. "Hegemony Fleet, this is Sergeant Maya Chen of the Terran Scout Division. I'm requesting immediate communication with your fleet commander." Thys exchanged glances with Vrex. How did a primitive species know hegemony standard? More importantly, how did they know they were hegemony ships? Their vessels carried no external markings, and their approach had been carefully planned to avoid any early warning systems Earth might possess. "Open a channel," Thys ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the interior of the human craft. The being who appeared was unlike anything in hegemony databases. She was small by galactic standards, perhaps 1.7 meters tall, with dark hair pulled back in a functional style. Her skin was a warm brown color, and her eyes, those disturbing human eyes, were dark and intelligent. She wore a simple gray uniform with various patches and insignia. But it was her expression that unsettled Thys most. She looked amused. "Commander," she said, inclining her head in what might have been a gesture of respect. "I'm Maya Chen. Welcome to the Sol system." "Human creature," Thys began, falling back on standard conquest protocols. "You are addressing the sovereign fleet of the galactic hegemony. Your world has been selected for resource harvesting and population reassignment. Surrender your vessels immediately and prepare for occupation." Maya Chen's expression didn't change. If anything, her slight smile grew warmer. I'm afraid that's not going to work, Commander Thys. The bridge fell silent. Thys felt his body temperature drop several degrees. She had used his name, his actual name, not his rank or title. Information that wasn't available in any public hegemony database. How do you know my designation? He asked quietly. Oh, we know quite a bit about you, Commander. Born on Hegemony Core World 7. Graduated third in your class from the War College. Lost your bondmate Scylla in the Kepler incident 12 years ago. You have 2 offspring currently attending advanced education on the outer colonies. Maya paused, consulting something off-screen. Your favorite recreation is designing mineral gardens, and you have a collection of rare crystals from 17 different worlds. The bridge crew turned to stare at their commander. This was personal information, private data that even most hegemony officers wouldn't know. Impossible, Vrex whispered. Maya's attention shifted to him. Sub-Commander Vrex, Clan of the Silver Crest, you're wondering how we know these things. The answer is simple. We've been watching you for a long time. Watching? Thys managed to ask. Commander, may I ask you a question? In your experience, what's the first sign of an intelligent species? Thys blinked, confused by the apparent change of subject. Technology, spaceflight capability. Interesting. You know what we consider the first sign of intelligence. Curiosity. The desire to learn, to understand, to know what's beyond the next hill or the next star. Maya leaned forward slightly. Humans have been curious about space for thousands of years. We've been dreaming about other worlds, other species, other civilizations since before we invented the wheel. Primitive dreams, Vrex scoffed. Are they? Maya asked. Let me tell you about Scout Division Echo 7, Commander. We launched from Earth 18 months ago. Our mission was simple. Find out who our neighbors are. Learn about them. Understand their cultures, their technologies, their intentions. She gestured to something outside the camera's range. My team consists of 6 specialists. Lieutenant Rodriguez handles communications and electronic warfare. Corporal Okafor is our cultural anthropologist. She's the one who figured out that using your personal name would get your attention. Private Tanaka specializes in technology analysis, and Dr. Kim focuses on biological and medical research. 6 primitives in a single small craft, Thys said, trying to regain control of the conversation, against 8 hegemony dreadnoughts. Oh, Commander, Maya said, and now her smile was definitely predatory. We're not alone. The tactical display erupted in warnings. Contacts appeared throughout the system, dozens of them. Small craft, all similar to Maya's ship, decloaking from positions that should have been impossible to reach undetected. They had been hiding in asteroid fields, behind moons, even in the outer planetary ring systems. Stealth technology, Zilt whispered in amazement. Their stealth technology is better than ours. Maya's voice continued over the comm. Scout Division Alpha 3 has been studying the hegemony for 2 years now. They visited 14 of your worlds, observed your military exercises, even attended some of your public ceremonies. Division Beta 9 has been tracking your expansion patterns. Division Gamma 12 has been analyzing your technology. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Commander, we know about your fuel requirements, your maintenance schedules, your crew rotation patterns. We know about the political tensions between the core worlds and the colonial sectors. We know about the resource shortages that are driving your expansion into this galactic arm. You're bluffing, Thys said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Tell me, Commander, how many worlds has the hegemony lost contact with in the past standard year? Thys felt his heart analog skip. That information is classified. 17 worlds, Commander. 17 colonies that simply stopped responding to hegemony communications. No distress signals, no evidence of conflict, no wreckage. Just silence. Maya's expression grew serious. You've been attributing it to equipment failures, haven't you? Communication breakdowns. Natural disasters. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. This information was beyond classified. It was restricted to only the highest levels of hegemony command. "What are you suggesting?" This asked. "I'm not suggesting anything, Commander. I'm telling you that there are forces at work in this galaxy that the hegemony doesn't understand. Species that don't appreciate your expansion methods. Civilizations that have been waiting for the right moment to push back." Maya leaned back in her chair. "The thing is, Commander, humans aren't warriors. We're not interested in conquest or empire building. We're explorers, researchers. We want to learn. But we're also survivors, and we've learned that the best way to survive is to understand your environment completely. So what do you want?" This demanded. "Right now, I want you to turn your fleet around and return to hegemony space. Report to your superiors that Earth is under the protection of what you might call an interstellar neighborhood watch. Tell them that further expansion in this direction would be inadvisable. And if we refuse..." Maya's smile returned, but now it held no warmth at all. "Commander, you're facing one scout division, one small exploration unit. Do you really want to find out what happens when Earth decides to stop just watching?" As if in response to her words, the sensor display lit up with new contacts. Larger ships this time, emerging from the outer system. Their design was unlike anything in hegemony databases, sleek, organic-looking vessels that moved with disturbing grace. "Those aren't human ships," Vrex observed. "No," Maya agreed. "Those belong to our friends, species that the hegemony classified as extinct or primitive over the past few centuries. Turns out, some of them were just hiding. Others were rebuilding. All of them were waiting." Fizz stared at the tactical display as more and more contacts appeared. His 8 dreadnoughts, which had seemed so overwhelmingly powerful just moments ago, were now vastly outnumbered by an alliance of species that shouldn't have existed. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Commander," Maya said gently, "you've been thinking about galactic civilization all wrong. You see conquest and submission. We see cooperation and mutual benefit. You see primitives to be harvested. We see potential friends to be understood." She gestured to the growing fleet around them. "Every species you've encountered has something to teach, something to offer. Instead of learning from them, you've been destroying them. Instead of growing stronger through diversity, you've been growing weaker through uniformity. The hegemony has ruled for millennia." This protested. "And look where that's gotten you. Resource shortages, colonial unrest, 17 missing worlds. Tell me, Commander, when was the last time the hegemony actually innovated? When was the last time you discovered something new instead of just taking something that already existed?" This had no answer. Innovation wasn't encouraged in hegemony society. Conformity was strength. Uniformity was stability. "We humans have a saying," Maya continued, "adapt or die. The hegemony has been dying for centuries. You just haven't noticed yet." The comm channel fell silent as both sides considered their next move. Finally, this spoke. "What guarantee do we have that this alliance won't pursue our retreat?" "My word," Maya said simply, "and the word of every species that's been hurt by hegemony expansion. We're not interested in revenge, Commander. We're interested in change, in growth, in learning from each other." She paused. "But understand this, Earth and our allies will be watching. Any further aggression, any attempt to harvest worlds in this region, will be met with the full cooperation of species you thought were extinct. Is that clear?" Fizz looked around his bridge at faces filled with confusion and fear. His crew, trained warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds, were terrified of a human scout and her impossible alliance. "Crystal clear," he said finally. "Lessons in adaptation." The hegemony fleet hung motionless in space for nearly an hour after Maya's ultimatum. Commander Fizz paced his bridge like a caged predator, his elongated form moving in agitated circles around the command center. Every few minutes, He would stop to stare at the tactical display, hoping the nightmare would somehow resolve itself into a manageable situation. It didn't. If anything, the display grew more troubling. The mysterious Alliance ships weren't just sitting passively in formation. They were moving with purpose, taking positions that would allow them to cut off any escape routes from the system. Worse, his own sensors were detecting energy signatures that defied explanation. These weren't primitive weapons or cobbled-together defense systems. They were advanced technologies that in many cases exceeded hegemony capabilities. "Sir," Navigator Zilt spoke up hesitantly, "long-range communications is requesting permission to contact Hegemony Command." "Denied," Thys snapped. "We maintain communication silence until I understand what we're truly facing." Sub-Commander Vrex approached carefully. "Commander, with respect, perhaps we should consider the humans' offer. Strategic withdrawal might be cowardice." Thys finished. "We are the hegemony. We do not retreat from primitives." "But are they primitives?" Zilt asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Thys turned to face his navigation officer, this young female who had served only 3 tours and had never seen real combat. Her scales were pale with stress, but her eyes held a clarity that disturbed him. "Explain," he commanded. "Sir, I've been analyzing the human stealth technology. It's not based on any principles in our databases. They're not just masking energy signatures or using traditional cloaking fields. They're somehow bending space itself, creating gaps in reality." Dr. Kent, the fleet's science officer, looked up from his instruments. "The Navigator is correct, Commander. These humans appear to have developed technologies that our theorists claimed were impossible. The energy requirements alone should have." The communication channel crackled back to life, interrupting the discussion. Maya Chen's calm voice filled the bridge once again. "Commander Thys, I hope you've had time to consider our conversation. I'd like to continue our discussion, if you don't mind." "What more is there to discuss?" Thys replied, though he found himself genuinely curious about this strange human. "Well, I thought you might like to understand how we knew so much about you, about your fleet, about the hegemony in general." Maya's image appeared on screen again, but this time she wasn't alone. 4 other humans flanked her position, each wearing similar gray uniforms with different insignia. "Allow me to introduce my team properly," Maya continued. "Lieutenant David Rodriguez, our communications specialist." A stocky human with dark skin nodded toward the screen. "Corporal Aisha Okafor, cultural anthropologist and Chinaf psychologist." A tall woman with intricate braided hair raised her hand. "Private Jin Tanaka, technology analyst." A young human with distinctly different facial features from the others bowed slightly. "And Dr. Sarah Kim, biological and medical researcher." The final team member, an older human with graying hair, smiled warmly. "Each of them has spent the past 18 months studying different aspects of hegemony civilization," Maya explained. "David infiltrated your communication networks and learned your languages, protocols, and command structures. Aisha analyzed your cultural patterns, social hierarchies, and psychological profiles. Jin reverse-engineered your technology and found some interesting weaknesses. Sarah studied your biology and discovered some fascinating vulnerabilities." Thys felt his temperature dropping again. Vulnerabilities. Dr. Kim leaned forward. "Commander, are you aware that your species has a critical dependence on a specific amino acid that only occurs naturally on 7 worlds in the galaxy? Or that your reproductive cycles are tied to certain stellar radiation patterns that can be artificially disrupted? You're threatening biological warfare," Vrex demanded. "Not at all," Maya said quickly. "Dr. Kim's research was purely for understanding. We believe in learning about other species, not harming them. But the point is, Commander, that knowledge is power. And humans are very, very good at gathering knowledge." Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up. "Commander, your fleet's communication systems have been compromised for the past 4 hours. Every transmission, every internal message, every tactical discussion. We've been listening. Private Tanaka added, your weapons systems have 17 critical design flaws that could be exploited remotely. Your shield generators operate on predictable frequency cycles. Your hyperdrive systems require a specific sequence of power fluctuations that can be disrupted from external sources. Corporal Okafor smiled pleasantly. And your crew, Commander, is experiencing significant psychological stress. Fear responses are elevated. Confidence in leadership is declining. Several individuals are questioning the wisdom of this mission. Thys looked around his bridge and realized she was right. His crew members were avoiding eye contact, their body language betraying uncertainty and growing panic. In 40 years of military service, he had never seen hegemony personnel so thoroughly demoralized. How? He asked simply. Maya's expression grew thoughtful. Commander, what do you know about human history? Your species fights among itself. Primitive territorial disputes. We do fight among ourselves, Maya agreed. Constantly, in fact. For thousands of years, we've been in almost continuous conflict. Wars over territory, resources, ideology, religion. Do you know what that taught us? Thys remained silent. It taught us to study our enemies, really study them. To understand not just their weapons and tactics, but their thoughts, their fears, their motivations. A human general once said, know your enemy better than you know yourself. We took that advice very seriously. She gestured to her team. When we first detected radio signals from space, indicating intelligent life, do you think we started building weapons? No, Commander. We started building listening posts. We started learning languages. We started studying cultures. By the time your scout ships reached the outer edges of our solar system 3 years ago, we already knew more about the hegemony than most of your own citizens do. Lieutenant Rodriguez added, we'd been intercepting your communications, analyzing your technology, studying your expansion patterns. Impossible, Thys protested. Our security protocols are designed to stop other hegemony systems, Private Tanaka interrupted. Not to stop a completely different approach to information warfare. You've been thinking in terms of direct assault, brute force attacks on your systems. We've been thinking in terms of patient observation and gradual infiltration. Maya nodded. Commander, humans don't fight fair. We fight smart. When we realized that a more advanced civilization might pose a threat to Earth, we didn't start building bigger weapons. We started building better scouts. Scout divisions, Thys said, understanding beginning to dawn. Exactly. Small teams of specialists whose job is to learn everything possible about potential threats or allies. We have over 200 scout divisions operating throughout this galaxy arm, Commander. Each one studying different species, different civilizations, different technologies. But your technology, Dr. Kempf protested. Your stealth systems, your ships. Dr. Kim smiled. Commander, did you know that over 47 species in this galaxy have developed innovations that surpass hegemony technology in specific areas? The problem is, the hegemony conquers them before they can share their knowledge with others. We don't conquer, Maya said firmly. We learn, we trade, we cooperate, and when we find species that have been hurt by hegemony expansion, we help them rebuild. The tactical display suddenly shifted, showing detailed schematics of hegemony ship designs. But these weren't standard technical readouts. They were annotated with weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and suggested improvements. Every ship in your fleet could be more efficient, Private Tanaka explained. Your power distribution systems waste nearly 30% of their energy output. Your weapons arrays could be reconfigured for 23% better accuracy. Your life support systems have redundancies that aren't needed and gaps that are dangerous. We're not telling you this to threaten you, Maya said. We're telling you this to demonstrate that cooperation produces better results than conquest. The species you've been calling primitive have technologies you've never imagined. The civilizations you've been destroying could have been teaching you things that would revolutionize hegemony society. This found himself genuinely listening now, his military training mooring with a growing fascination for these strange humans and their impossible alliance. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked. "Change," Maya replied simply. "Real change. The hegemony could become something greater than a conquering empire. You could become explorers, researchers, teachers. You could learn from the thousands of species in this galaxy instead of destroying them. The Hegemony Council would never." "The Hegemony Council is terrified," Corporal Okafor interrupted. 17 missing worlds, remember. Resource shortages increasing every year. Colonial unrest spreading. They know the current system is failing, Commander. They just don't know what to do about it. "We could help," Maya offered, "not by conquering or threatening, but by sharing what we've learned. About cooperation. About turning diversity into strength instead of seeing it as weakness." This was quiet for a long moment, processing everything he had heard. Finally, he asked the question that had been nagging at him since this encounter began. "Human Maya Chen, why are you telling me all of this? Why reveal your capabilities? You could have simply destroyed my fleet." Maya's smile was sad. "Because that's not who we are, Commander. Yes, we could destroy your fleet. Our allies out there have been waiting decades for the chance to strike back at the hegemony. But destruction doesn't solve the underlying problem. It just creates new conflicts. We believe in teaching, not punishing," Dr. Kim added. "In healing, not harming. In growing stronger together rather than growing weaker apart," Lieutenant Rodriguez continued. Maya leaned forward. "Commander, take a message back to the Hegemony Council. Tell them that the galaxy is bigger and stranger and more wonderful than they ever imagined. Tell them that there are species out here who would be honored to share their knowledge, their technologies, their cultures. And tell them," she continued, her voice growing firm, "that this expansion into inhabited space ends now, not because we're threatening them, but because we're offering them something better." The bridge fell silent. Thys looked around at his crew, seeing their faces transformed by wonder and possibility rather than fear and aggression. These humans had done something he would have thought impossible. They had turned hegemony military personnel into curious students. "If we accept this proposal," he said slowly, "what guarantee do we have that your alliance won't exploit our vulnerabilities?" "The same guarantee you're giving us," Maya replied. "Trust. The decision to build something better instead of just taking what already exists." She gestured to the displays around her. "Commander, we know everything about your fleet, your technology, your society. If we wanted to harm the hegemony, we could have done it years ago. Instead, we're offering partnership." Thys made his decision. "I will carry your message to the Hegemony Council." "Thank you, Commander." "And Commander?" "Yes." Maya's smile was warm and genuine. "When you report this encounter, make sure you tell them the truth. That you didn't meet Earth's military. You didn't face our weapons or our warriors. You met one scout division. 6 specialists whose job is to watch and learn and understand." She paused, letting the implications sink in once more. "Tell them to imagine what happens when humanity decides to do more than just scout." As the hegemony fleet prepared to depart, Commander Thys found himself looking forward to delivering this message. For the first time in decades, he felt genuinely excited about the future of galactic civilization. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation was about to begin.